Hey guys, it's Kixi from Kixie's Brick Builds, and today we are going to talk about the history of LEGO's level crossings. There are some really bad ones, and I will build my own remote controlled level crossing MOC. See you after the intro. If there's one thing I like as much or even more than trains, it's level crossings with barriers. I was fascinated by them as a child, and I could tell many stories about how many hours my grandma spent with me at level crossings just to watch them close and reopen. And so of course it was clear that I also had to have level crossings made out of Lego. And that's what we are talking about today, and I'm going to show you how I built my own motorized railroad crossing. But first, let's take a quick look at the level crossings LEGO has released over the decades. First we have a set from 1976. It is set number 146 and has only 65 pieces. It's from the blue era, when there were only 4.5 volt trains and no real minifigures yet. The gatekeeper's house is only 4 stars deep and offers just enough space to put the figure in. But in terms of play depth, it corresponds very well with current sets from the LEGO Cities series. Set 7834 followed 4 years later. It consists of 89 parts and was released at the beginning of the 12-volt era. It could be used for 12-volt trains as well as for push-along trains. A separate part was included to replace the 12-volt power rail. Apart from a seat and a slope with a controlled surface, the cabin has no other interior elements. However, this was one of the first sets to include the new cypress tree mold back then. The first and only remote-controlled level crossing, and still my favorite to this day, is set number 7866 from 1983. It consists of 189 parts, and the highlight, in addition to the remote-controlled barriers, were probably the flashing lights, which were controlled together with the barrier booms. The interior of the control tower is also quite simple. There's only one seat and 2 slopes with printed controls. But what I really liked about this set was the modern design for the time. Especially the roof windows, which were used the other way around to get that special look. We will come back to this set later. In 1985, this level crossing was released with 125 parts. It is set number 7835 and is actually intended for push-along trains, but can be modified for the 12-volt system. As with every other set, a small house for the gatekeeper was also included here. Again, there is no other interior apart from the well-known slope with a print and a seat. Interior design at level crossings is not a top priority at LEGO. After a 6-year break, the level crossing with the set number 4539 appeared in 1991. It consists of 106 parts and looks very similar to the previous level crossing. However, it is the first set for the 9-volt trains. Again, the design of the control tower is very simple, but this time we don't have a printed slope next to the seat, just 2 small antennas that are supposed to represent levers instead. I don't know why you need 2 of them, because normally not every barrier is operated individually. With 131 pieces, LEGO released the next level crossing in 1996, set number 4532. It is the first set with brick-built barrier booms. This time some sort of platform is included, but the side facing the tracks is only 8 studs wide, and that is kinda ridiculous. That means you have to stop at every door of the train to let passengers get on and off. Aside from the fact that the level crossing has to remain closed at all times, the minifigures also have to be very athletic or be able to fly to get on and off the train. On the roof of this station, or platform, there's again a control room. Instead of the slope with print, this time there's only a 1x2 tile with a printed control surface. There's a red phone in the platform waiting area. I don't know for what, but if it's red, it must be very important. After another 7-year break, LEGO released the largest level crossing set to date. Set number 10128 consists of 318 parts and hit the market in 2003. In addition to the gatekeeper's house, the large set includes a pedestrian crossing and a road and rail cherry picker truck, which is now also in the new train station. It's also the first set to come with 2 minifigures and an old dark grey road plate and slopes for the level crossing. In this very large building, the control units are spread over 2 floors. The level crossing is probably operated on the first floor and the track system is monitored. Unfortunately, there is not much space for the minifigures. On the ground floor, we find a computer with a screen. Yeah, and the last official level crossing set is this sad thing. Set number 7936 from 2010. The barriers are brick built and don't even look very good. The focus at LEGO was probably more on the small truck for track work. The best thing about the 138 parts is that you get 4 straight tracks. The rest is not worth mentioning. There were also smaller level crossings, but they were always without barriers and always included in a train set, such as in the set 7898, the Cargo Train Deluxe, the 60098 Heavy Haul Train, the 60051 High Speed Passenger Train, and the last cargo train set number 60198. And finally there was one level crossing each in the two sets 10259, the Winter Village Station, and the current station 60335. I hope my research was good enough and I didn't forget a level crossing. But if you find another one, let me know in the comments. So let's get back to my all-time favorite level crossing. The 7866 set was the only one that was designed for 2 parallel tracks and also the only one that could be operated remotely. LEGO used the control boxes of the electric switches of the time to open and close the barriers. The only problem was that the barriers always moved way too fast, but still better than no movable barriers. To be honest, I missed the days when there were electrical decouplers, signals and switches. But back to the main topic. Obsessed with the idea of having a remote-controlled level crossing again, I designed and built my first model 2 years ago. After that worked great, I designed a few more models last year during the pandemic, and I'm going to build that with you guys today. A few weeks ago, I first exported the part list from .io and uploaded it to my trusted site. And then came the problems. My level crossing consists of about 1700 parts, and I first looked at sellers in Germany so that I don't have to wait too long for the parts. With shipping it would have come to over 400 euros. So I looked for worldwide sellers, but there it was even worse. Almost 500 euros without shipping. That's a part price of 30 euro cents for many used parts. Fortunately, a company called Webrick also contacted me a few weeks ago. They must have been fascinated by the way I make my videos and asked me if I would like to build one of my MOCs with their bricks. And to be honest, when it comes to free bricks, I'm in. So after a few emails with Webrick, I sent them my part list, and after a little over 2 weeks of waiting, the parts were already delivered. The parts were packaged perfectly and the base plate wasn't bent either, as it is often the case with sets that come from Asia. Of course, even though I got the parts for free, I checked Webrick's website to see how much the parts would cost. The parts cost about 160 euros, which is about the same in US dollars, and with shipping the parts would have cost 190 euros. That's not even half of what I would have paid at Bricklink. So some of you will say now, but it's no LEGO. Yeah, that's true, but it's still ABS plastic. But let's compare the quality. As you have just seen, I unpacked an original LEGO 32x32 baseplate to compare with the Webrick 48x48 baseplate. Unfortunately, I didn't have any large LEGO ones at the moment. Except for the missing LEGO logo on the studs, I couldn't tell any difference. It feels and smells like LEGO. I used bricks from set 60335 for further comparisons. It's the parts for the cherry picker truck that I haven't assembled yet. At the beginning of the video you always see bricks from LEGO on the left and those from Webrick on the right. In order not to waste time unnecessarily, I run through the comparison of the bricks and plates in fast motion. Believe me or not, I can hardly tell the difference between Webrick bricks and LEGO. The clutch power is about the same for both, maybe it's even a little higher for the Webrick bricks. Okay, from now on I'll just call them Webricks. Webrick brick is a real tongue twister. So the bricks and plates hold together very well even when I put LEGO on Webrick or vice versa. The surface of the Webricks are exactly like those of LEGO and without any notable scratches. Of course, everything I just said also applies to the Webrick plates, or replates. I've tried every imaginable variation and the plates hold up very well even when combined with LEGO. Also the colors of the Webricks and Weplates are really good. Within the Webrick world I could not find any deviations with the same color. Even LEGO doesn't do that as well as these bricks. Maybe it's a coincidence, or maybe the people at Webrick took extra care to ensure my bricks are top notch. A final test is the noise test. In other videos I've seen people claim that LEGO bricks sound different than alternative bricks when they fall. Whatever that is supposed to prove, of course I'll do the test too. To be honest, I don't hear any difference. It sounds like plastic falling on a table. And that's it for the comparison. Of course, I start with the base plate and first build the entire substructure, which includes most of the technical elements to motorize the entire level crossing. It's a compact construction of axles and gears to move the barrier booms. Since the barriers for right-hand traffic always close first and then the barriers for oncoming traffic, the construction has to be driven by two motors. This also means that the axles have to be redirected several times in order not to interfere with each other. Here you can see the first tests where I check if the worm gears are all moving in the right direction. Obviously everything's moving as it should, so next we're going to close the box. Before you cover everything with plates, you should urgently check that all gears and axles are mounted correctly. Should one detach later, it is a hell of a job to open everything again and look for the error. First I cover everything with a layer of light bluish grey plates. This is followed by another layer of green plates as the basis for a railroad crossing outside in the green. I also designed a, well, let's call it more a US style level crossing that I'll show you later. Finally, I used a lot of tiles, plant parts and built a small fence to complete the look. Then I built the barrier construction, a total of 4 pieces, 2 of which must be built mirror inverted. What you see here is not the final construction, as I had to make some adjustments. You'll see why in a moment. Of course, it wasn't planned that way. Unfortunately, some construction weaknesses cannot be recognized during digital construction. At the moment I'm doing some optimization with my friends Andy and Michi. The two gave me tips via video on how to improve the technical construction. I will soon show the changes in more detail in my video about the more US-American level crossing. By the way, you should also check out their YouTube channel Bricks Builds. They also do a lot of railroading and are even currently building their own Hogwarts Express. Here you can see a test if the train can handle the standard curves. At the moment it is still a test setup in mixed colors, but soon the locomotive will shine in a wonderful dark red. And see who is there and is already waiting for the first ride to Hogwarts. But back to the main topic. Finally we built the gatekeeper's house with the interior. For the interior design I decided to make it look more like a control center, where not only the opening and closing of the barriers, but also the switches and signals can be operated. Yes, I know, a bit old-fashioned, but more interesting to build than just control monitors. Here you can see the complete interior design again. In addition to the operating devices, which are both digital and manual, there's at least a coffee machine for the poor wretch who has to be there. As you could see, the house had to be quite tall because of the engines housed inside. I also made the roof relatively high so that you can place the IR receiver there if you want to use LEGO's power functions, for example. What I forgot to say so far, the LEGO power function system is best suited for motorization. Unfortunately, the powered up Bluetooth box does not fit into the building construction without a redesign. And with that, the construction of my own MOC is complete. I have to say again, the building with the Webricks went really well. The quality of the bricks was very good, no damaged parts, and the order was complete without missing parts. I even had some extra parts. I think the MOC just looks great when integrated into a city, or in this case a suburban area. Here's a little something extra before we see my MOC in action. In the previous colorful picture you saw the wonderful freight locomotive of the Austrian Federal Railways, in German Österreichische Bundesbahn. It is a class 1822 locomotive and was built between 1990 and 1991. The top speed is 140 km per hour, which is about 87 miles per hour. The creation in 6 wide is from the designer Brick Design Germany. I bought the building instructions a few months ago and redesigned it into 8 wide. So why I'm showing you this locomotive? Because I built them out of Webricks a while back too. The quality of the bricks for this locomotive was the reason why I agreed to build one of my MOCs from Webricks. If you like the locomotive, take a look at the designer's page. The link is in the video description below. There you will also find many other great locomotives. But now it's about time we let some trains run and see my MOC in action. In Germany, it is common for the barriers for traffic on the right to close first, followed by the barriers on the oncoming lane after a short time. As I told you before, that's why I put 2 motors in it. As you can see, I exchanged the black gear wheel for a white one with a slipping clutch on each barrier. Now the barrier holders no longer tear off when their engines run too long. Unfortunately, these gears are not available in black. That would look much better. And now let's see how my locomotive of the Austrian Federal Railways is doing on my level crossing. Well, there was a little hop. This is because the ramps are a bit too steep and the locomotive gets stuck easily. Of course, you don't have that problem if the tracks are all flat. So one last time. Close the barriers. Train goes through. And open the barriers. Oh, did you see that? I don't know this train at all. And do you want to see it again? Well, that's my modification of the 60337. As I announced in one of my previous videos, I removed the big doors and lengthened the cars by 12 studs. The front and end car were also extended by 8 studs and I changed the color scheme, but there will be more about that in one of my next videos. Okay guys, that's it for today's video, but don't switch off yet. At the very end there's a very special level crossing that I'm also building right now. I would say it goes well with the new train station. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more trains or train related videos, just subscribe and hit the like button. And as you know, I always appreciate your comments. Every comment will be answered as long as I can. Until then, take care, bye.